My name is Brian. I'm 37 years old, and up until the night of my wife's birthday, I thought I had a good life. Not a perfect one. Those don't exist, but good. I worked hard, came home tired, paid the bills, and thought love meant sticking around even when things got hard. Karen, my wife, had always been the outgoing one between us. I was the steady type, the kind who forgets to flirt but remembers your dentist appointment. She used to say that's what she loved about me, that I made her feel safe. I never imagined that safe would one day mean invisible. That night, she invited her friends over for a birthday celebration. I was in the garage, tightening up some shelves when I heard the back door open and the burst of laughter that followed. Music, drinks, the usual party sounds. I didn't want to intrude. I never liked those get-togethers anyway. Karen said they were her way to breathe. I always respected that, gave her space. So I stayed out there, fixing things that didn't need fixing, until I heard her voice. Her laughter, louder than the others. Drunker. She was mid-story when I paused with the drill in my hand. He's too stupid to realize I've been cheating for years. The sound of glass clinking. More laughter. One of her friends gasped, either shocked or pretending to be. Karen, you're awful. And Karen, with that same drunk giggle, replied, No, seriously. I'm not even careful anymore. It's like he wants to believe I'm still the girl he married. Everything inside me froze. It's strange what you feel when a moment like that hits. It's not rage. Not yet. It's cold. Silent. Like something dies without sound. I stood there, one hand on the wall, trying to tell myself maybe I misheard. Maybe it was a joke. A bad one. But something in her tone told me it wasn't. That laugh. That ease. The kind of confidence only someone who's been getting away with it for a long time would have. I stayed in the garage until the party ended. I didn't confront her, didn't storm in, didn't throw anything. I just sat there on the cold concrete, staring at nothing. When she finally came to bed, still giggling, smelling like wine and perfume, I pretended to be asleep. She crawled into bed beside me, touched my back gently. I didn't move. That night, I didn't sleep. I laid there, eyes open, listening to her breath, counting every inhale like it was ticking down to something I couldn't name yet. The next morning, she kissed me on the cheek and asked if I could run to the store to get milk. I did, because I needed her to think I hadn't heard, because I needed time. Over the next few days, I watched her differently. Not like a husband watches a wife, but like a man looking at a stranger who wears his wife's face. Her phone never left her side. She'd turn it face down, swipe away messages if I walked by. She smiled too quickly. She started going out more. I noticed everything, and still I said nothing. Instead, I started making quiet changes. I logged into our bank account, took screenshots. I checked property deeds, retirement accounts, things she'd never think to look at. I created a new email address, downloaded a secure password manager, transferred small amounts from our joint account to one in my name. Not a lot. Just enough to test the waters. I wasn't preparing for war. I was preparing for truth. It was the first time in our marriage I had secrets of my own, and it felt like survival. 3 days after the party, I saw a name flash across her phone. I'd never seen it before. Evan. She turned the screen away like it burned her hand. Later that night, while she was in the shower, I checked her phone. Password protected. She never used to lock it. I took that as confirmation. I didn't confront her. Not yet. Something inside me said, wait. Because when you're about to lose everything you thought you had, the only control you have left is when. And I wasn't ready. I needed more. Then I remembered something. Years ago, when we moved into this house, Karen insisted we keep an old iPad around for music and recipes. She used it more than I did, but it was still connected to her Apple account. That night, while she slept, I found it at the back of a drawer. I charged it, logged in, and that's when I saw the messages. Hundreds of them. Text chains, calendar invites, hotel bookings. Some messages were romantic. Some were cruel. Some were about me. She'd been mocking me to him. To Evan. He seriously made lasagna again. Like I'm some 1950s housewife. He told me he loves me tonight. I almost laughed. I wish I'd left him years ago. But the house is in his name, so I play nice. I scrolled through all of it. Every lie she ever told me echoed through that screen. And still, I didn't say a word. Because what do you say to someone who's already decided you're a fool? No, I didn't rage. I planned, and I waited for the perfect moment. Because what Karen didn't know, what Evan didn't know, was that I wasn't a fool anymore. And fools don't burn. They rise. I didn't say anything for 2 weeks. Not to Karen. Not to anyone. I still woke up beside her. Still made her coffee. Still kissed her on the forehead when I left for work. But inside, something was breaking apart. Not all at once, but in slow, bitter cracks. Like glass under pressure. She didn't notice the difference. Or maybe she didn't care. She was too distracted. By him. By the lies. By whatever fantasy she was chasing behind my back. But I noticed everything. Every text she typed under the dinner table. Every girl's night that ended with her slipping into the house after midnight. Every fake smile, every tired excuse. And with each one, I became less her husband and more her observer. I started journaling everything. Names, dates, receipts. I opened a locked folder on my laptop and stored copies of everything I found. Screenshots, messages, hotel reservations under her name, even her call logs. I wasn't trying to hurt her. Not yet. I just needed to protect myself. Because I could feel it, like a storm forming far out at sea. She was planning something. It was in the way she suddenly asked about the mortgage. The way she'd casually mentioned how her friend got a good lawyer for her divorce. The way she started leaving pamphlets from real estate agents out on the kitchen counter, pretending they were for a friend. She wasn't just cheating. She was preparing to leave me. Maybe even take the house. Maybe everything. But I was a few steps ahead. While she was meeting Evan behind closed doors, I was meeting with a lawyer of my own. Quietly. Carefully. I didn't want revenge. I wanted protection. We drafted a post-nuptial agreement. Karen didn't know, but I'd inherited money from my uncle years ago and kept it in a separate account. Untouched. Unspoken. The lawyer helped me structure it under a trust. Legal. Binding. Untouchable. I refinanced the house in my name alone. She hadn't paid a single mortgage payment in years. The bank had no reason not to approve the change. I moved part of my 401k into an individual retirement account that couldn't be split unless she challenged it. Something I hoped she wouldn't think to do. Then I started recording. Not everything, just the parts that mattered. When she got sloppy. When she left voicemails meant for him, thinking she'd deleted them. When she talked in her sleep. And then one day, she left her laptop open. Carelessly. Maybe she didn't care anymore. Maybe she thought I was too stupid to look. But I did. And I found emails. Emails that weren't just about sex or sneaking around. They were about me. He's too boring. I can't even stand having dinner with him anymore. I told him I was working late tonight. You free? We need to start planning how to do this without me losing the house. That one hit hard. Because she wasn't just lying to me. She was actively scheming. With him. To take from me. That night, I made a decision. Not to expose her yet. But to push. To test how far she'd go. So, I told her we should take a trip. Just the two of us. Somewhere quiet. To reconnect. I even said I'd booked the cabin already. Gave her the dates. She hesitated. And then, just like I expected, she said she couldn't take time off work. 3 days later, I watched from my parked car across the street as she got into a black SUV. Not mine. Not a friend's. Evan's. They didn't see me. They were laughing. Holding hands like two teenagers. I didn't follow them. I didn't need to. I'd seen enough. I went home, and for the first time, I started thinking about what freedom looked like. Not revenge. Not confrontation. Just life without her. Peace. Silence. Honesty. That weekend, I asked her again. Want to go away next month? Just us. She smiled too brightly. Oh, babe, that sounds amazing. Let me check my schedule. Fake. So fake it almost made me laugh. But I smiled back. Played along. Because I knew what was coming. A storm she thought she could control. I started writing her a letter. Not for that moment. Not yet. But for the day I'd finally hand it to her. The day I'd walk away. Because I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to plead, or shout, or cry. I was going to wait. Wait for her to make the final move. So I could make mine. And it happened sooner than I thought. One Thursday afternoon, I came home early from work. Pulled into the driveway and noticed an unfamiliar car parked out front. I didn't slam the door. Didn't even close it. I walked in quietly. The house was too quiet. I heard footsteps upstairs. A voice. Male. Then hers. I didn't go up. I didn't need to see. I walked out, sat in my truck, stared out the windshield as the weight of it all settled in my chest like wet cement. 10 minutes later, the front door opened. He walked out first, then her. She didn't see me until she turned to close the door and froze. I looked her dead in the eyes. No anger, no panic, just a silence she didn't expect. She opened her mouth to speak. I rolled up the window and drove away. Not forever, not yet, but far enough that the road behind me started to feel like a life. I was finally ready to leave. I didn't go home that night. I drove around town with no destination, headlights cutting through the dark like I was hoping the road could tell me what to do next. I ended up in an old diner we used to go to when things were still good, before Evan, before secrets, before everything got so twisted. I sat in a booth, ordered black coffee, and stared at the cracks in the table. I kept hearing her laugh in my head. That birthday night. That line. He's too stupid to realize I've been cheating for years. Over and over again. That sentence had gutted me more than the act itself. Because it wasn't just betrayal, it was humiliation. She didn't just lie. She mocked me. And the man I had become, quiet, passive, forgiving, he wasn't going to survive this. He had to go. So I sat there for hours, making lists in my mind. What to say, what to do, what to not do. I didn't want to burn everything down. I didn't want drama or screaming matches. I wanted out, but clean, complete. So I called a friend, Thomas. He's a financial advisor I trust. I didn't tell him the whole story, just enough to get him to help me restructure my assets in a way that protected me fully. He agreed to meet the next day. By the time I walked into our house again, the sun was already creeping over the horizon. Karen was sitting on the couch, alone, still in yesterday's clothes. No words, no fake smile. She had the nerve to look at me like I owed her an explanation. Where were you? I stared at her for a long time. Out. You scare me. I almost laughed. Did I interrupt something yesterday? She blinked. What? The guy. In our house. You look surprised to see me. Her lips parted. She hesitated. He's just a friend. That was the moment. The moment I realized she wasn't going to admit it. Even with her lie caught midair, she clung to it like a life raft. And that's when I knew this marriage wasn't dying. It was already dead. I nodded slowly. Okay. And I walked past her, took a shower, made breakfast, said nothing else. And then I called my lawyer. I told him I was ready to proceed. A week later, the papers were ready. I didn't serve them. Not yet. I left them in my briefcase and carried them around like a loaded weapon I refused to use until the time was right. And that time came on a Sunday. Karen told me she was going to see her sister. Said she'd be gone all day. I already knew she wasn't. Because earlier that morning, I checked the GPS tracker I'd quietly installed in her car weeks ago. She was headed to a hotel. Same one as before. Same name on the reservation. Evan. I followed from a distance. Waited in the parking lot. Watched him go in. I sat there for over 2 hours. Then I got out. Walked inside. I didn't go to their room. I didn't need to. I went to the front desk. Asked for a copy of the guest log under my wife's name. They asked for ID. I showed it. The woman behind the desk looked uncomfortable, but she printed it anyway. And there it was. 6 different stays. All during weekends, she claimed she was visiting her sister or on a business trip. I thanked the clerk and left. That night, I printed every message I had from the iPad, every hotel receipt, every call log, every email. I laid them out on the dining table like puzzle pieces. Then I placed the divorce papers in the center. I waited for her to come home. She walked in just after 10. Her hair was wet, probably from shower at the hotel. She looked surprised to see me awake. You're up. I didn't respond, just gestured to the table. She looked. Her face turned white. What is this? Everything you thought I was too stupid to see. She stood there, frozen. Then her eyes narrowed. You're spying on me? I was surviving you. For a long moment, she didn't say anything. She just stood there, scanning every page. Then she laughed. So what? You want a medal? You think this makes you a man now? It wasn't even the words. It was the way she said them. Like I caught her cheating on a board game. That's when the switch flipped. No, Karen, I don't want a medal. I want my life back. I picked up the divorce papers. Signed them. She didn't move. If you don't, I will file and I will win. Because everything on this table proves what you are. And if you think for a second I'll let you take anything from me after what you've done, you're more delusional than I thought. Her eyes flashed. You'll regret this. I already regret you. Silence. She stared at me for what felt like forever. Then she walked upstairs. Didn't say a word, and I didn't follow. The next morning, I woke up to find her sitting at the table. The papers were signed. No note. No apology. Just her signature. It was the cleanest thing she'd done in years. But I couldn't feel relief. Not yet. Because deep down, I knew this wasn't the end. Karen wasn't the kind of person who lost quietly. And neither was Evan. Something darker was still waiting just beyond the surface. And when it hit, I wasn't sure either of us would be the same. 3 days after she signed the papers, Karen moved out. No tearful goodbyes. No last-minute pleas. Just a cold, dry goodbye. I'll come back for the rest of my stuff later. She left with a suitcase and the same arrogance she wore the night I overheard her laughing. That sound still haunted me. Not just the betrayal, but the joy she took in it. After she left, the silence in the house was unreal. It wasn't peace yet. It was just absence. Like the ghost of a war that had finally ended, but the smoke hadn't cleared. I sat in the empty living room, looking around at a house that suddenly felt too big, too hollow. I didn't cry. I thought I might, but I didn't. I just felt tired. That weekend, I started packing up her remaining things, neatly, respectfully, like a man closing the door on a life he no longer recognized. I boxed up her makeup from the bathroom, her clothes from the closet, even the little keepsakes she kept on a nightstand. I left everything by the front door. And that's when the email came. Subject: response to divorce filing. It was from a law firm, not mine. I opened it. Karen had lawyered up, filed a response with allegations. False ones. My client claims the marriage was emotionally abusive. She was forced to remain in a home environment where she felt unsafe. My client seeks spousal support and partial ownership of the residence. I read the words 3 times. My blood went cold. She wasn't trying to fight fair. She was trying to flip the script, turn me into the villain, destroy my reputation just enough to tilt the scales in her favor. I called my lawyer immediately. He'd seen things like this before. This is a tactic, he said. She's hoping you'll panic, that you'll settle quickly just to make it go away. I'm not settling, I said. Good. Then we fight. That week, I gathered everything I had again. I handed over all the evidence. The messages, the logs, the guest lists from hotels, even the recordings, especially the one from her birthday, the one where she laughed and admitted to everything. My lawyer nodded. This will hold. If she wants a courtroom, we'll give her one. Still, it didn't sit right with me. Not because I was scared of losing, because I wasn't that man anymore, but because I hated what she was turning it into. This was a woman I once loved. A woman I once held in my arms after a miscarriage. A woman who held me when I got the call my mother passed. And now she was standing on the other side of a courtroom, accusing me of things I never did. It felt like betrayal all over again, twice as deep. But then it got worse. One evening, I got a call from block number. I almost didn't answer, but something told me to. Brian. The voice was male. Unfamiliar. Who is this? It's Evan. Silence. I pulled the phone from my ear, stared at the screen, then brought it back. You've got a lot of nerve. I know. Look, I'm not calling to fight. Then why are you calling? She lied to me too. That stopped me. What are you talking about? Karen told me you two were already separated when we started seeing each other. Said you were abusive, cold, controlling. I didn't find out the truth until I read those documents. She showed them to me. She's freaking out. Says you're going to ruin her. I didn't know what to say. I hated him. I wanted to scream, punch a wall. But part of me also saw him for what he was, another piece in her game, another person she used. I didn't call to apologize, he continued. But I thought you should know. She's talking to someone else. A guy named Tom. She's not even loyal to me anymore. I couldn't tell if he was trying to warn me or just hurting. She's already moved in with him, he added. It's only been a few days. That was it. That was the final piece. She hadn't just betrayed me. She hadn't just lied, mocked, manipulated. She'd done it over and over again to everyone. It wasn't about me. It never was. It was about control, power, winning. I told my lawyer about the call. We subpoenaed records, traced timelines. It all lined up. The lies, the financial manipulations, the chain of affairs. But still, Karen didn't back down. She pushed harder. She showed up in my office, uninvited, crying. Her voice cracked. Please, Brian, don't ruin me. I made mistakes, I know. But this is too far. I looked her in the eyes, trying to find the woman I once knew. You told people I abused you. I didn't mean it like that. You tried to take the house. I was scared. You laughed about me being too stupid to notice. You weren't scared, Karen. You were cruel. Her tears didn't move me anymore. I stood. You can leave now. She did. But I knew it wasn't over. Because someone like Karen doesn't accept losing. Especially when she loses the version of me she thought was too weak to fight back. What she didn't know, I wasn't trying to destroy her. I was just reclaiming my life. And the next court date would make everything clear. For both of us. The morning of the hearing, I sat alone in the car outside the courthouse. It was gray and rainy, fitting. Like the world knew exactly what was about to unfold and didn't want to brighten the day out of respect. I stared at the courthouse steps for a long time. People in suits walked past me, umbrellas popping open, phones pressed to ears, none of them knowing the war I was about to walk into. The kind that doesn't leave bruises but scars you just the same. I wasn't scared. Not anymore. Just hollow. I walked in. My lawyer met me by the security gate. He nodded, calm and sharp, the kind of presence that steadied you just by standing nearby. Karen was already inside. She wore a navy blue dress. Her hair was pulled back tightly. Her expression was practiced, vulnerable but not weak. It was the same mask she'd always worn when she wanted to appear the victim. Her lawyer looked smug, like he thought I was just some husband unraveling over a bruised ego. But they didn't know what I had in that folder. What I brought with me. What months of quiet observation, documentation, and restraint had built toward. The proceedings started. Karen's lawyer spoke first. He painted a picture of a neglected woman, emotionally isolated, afraid in her own home. He said I was distant, cold, that she sought comfort elsewhere but never stopped being a mother, a wife, a partner. He hinted that I had control issues, without ever offering proof. And when Karen took the stand, she cried. Real tears. I'll give her that. She said I was emotionally unavailable, that I hadn't touched her in years, that she felt erased in our home, that I had started tracking her movements, spying on her, making her feel watched. That was the moment I knew. If I didn't fight back right then, her lies would write the ending. So I stood. I walked to the front, calm, and I began with this. Your Honor, I've stayed silent for months, but I didn't come here to play victim. I came here to show the truth. I pulled out the printed messages, the hotel logs, the recordings. One by one, I handed them to the clerk, entered into evidence. The judge took them, started flipping through, and then I played it. Her birthday recording. The courtroom was silent as the speakers echoed her drunken voice. He's too stupid to realize I've been cheating for years. Gasp. Even her lawyer's face went pale. And then I added the hotel reservations, with dates that matched up to the nights she claimed she was working late or visiting her sister. I presented the email from Evan. Yes, he'd sent a follow-up confirming everything. It detailed the manipulation, the affair, the lies. And then I said it. She didn't want out of a painful marriage. She wanted to win. She wanted to walk away with everything, after taking everything. Karen's hand shook. She stood up. He's manipulating everything. You don't know what he was like behind closed doors. The judge raised a hand. Mrs. Bennett, sit down. She didn't. This isn't fair. He's making me look like the monster. The judge banged his gavel. Sit down. She did, red-faced, shaking. But the damage was done. Not to me, to her. The courtroom was no longer buying the performance. And then the twist came. My lawyer handed me a new document he'd received just that morning, an anonymous tip that had been verified by our investigator. Karen wasn't just involved with Evan and Tom. There had been another man. 5 years ago, a co-worker, married. The affair had nearly cost him his job. His marriage did end. And it happened while we were trying to conceive. While she was telling me she wanted to be a mother, I looked up at her. She knew. She looked away. Shame finally reached her eyes. It was quiet. The judge cleared his throat. After reviewing the submitted evidence, I'm inclined to rule in favor of Mr. Bennett regarding property and financial protection. Given the extensive documentation of marital misconduct, I didn't hear the rest. I just exhaled, for the first time in months. We didn't speak after that. She left the courthouse before I did. Didn't look back. Didn't say goodbye. And that was fine, because I wasn't looking for closure from her. I was finding it in the silence, in the aftermath. But before I walked to my car, the judge's assistant caught up to me. She handed me a copy of form Karen had filed just the day before the hearing. A withdrawal of her claim for spousal support. No reason given, just a line drawn. And beneath it, her signature. I don't know why she did it. Maybe it was guilt. Maybe it was fear. Maybe, finally, some part of her realized what she'd done. But as I got into my truck and looked at that paper one more time, I knew this wasn't the end. Not yet. Because healing takes more than winning. It takes truth. And mine was still unfolding. It was strange how quickly life settled after the storm. No more whispered phone calls behind closed doors. No more tracking, documenting, waiting for the other shoe to drop. Just silence. Karen had moved out for good. Her belongings were picked up by a moving company. No note, no goodbye. She disappeared as quickly as she'd unraveled our life. But the house still carried her scent. Everywhere I looked, there were ghosts. The dent in the kitchen wall where she dropped the wine bottle 2 years ago. The closet that used to hold her shoes. The bathroom mirror fogged in the same pattern, even though she was no longer brushing her hair there. Some nights, I still caught myself setting 2 plates for dinner. Habit dies slower than love. I focused on rebuilding my life. I went back to work. I reconnected with friends I hadn't seen in years. I joined a local running group. Not because I loved running, but because I needed to feel like I was moving. I saw a therapist, not to complain, just to speak, to say the things I'd kept buried too long. I told her everything. About the laugh, the deception, the courtroom, the grief I didn't understand how to name. She said something I didn't expect. You didn't just lose a wife, Brian. You lost the version of yourself that believed in her. And she was right. About 6 weeks after the divorce was finalized, I got a letter. Not an email, not a text. A real letter. Handwritten. From Karen. I almost didn't open it. But I did. It was short. Brian, I've told myself 100 different stories about what happened between us. I've tried to justify, to blame, to reshape the truth into something I could live with. But none of it holds up. You were good to me. Better than I ever deserved. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't even know if I deserve to be remembered. But I wanted to tell you this. You weren't stupid. You were just kind. And I ruined that. I hope one day someone sees in you what I was too blind and selfish to appreciate. No apology for the lies, for the manipulation, for the courtroom accusations. But there was a crack of something. Maybe remorse. Maybe just the first time she'd told the truth in years. I didn't write back. There was nothing left to say. But I didn't burn the letter either. I kept it, not for nostalgia, but as proof that I wasn't crazy. That everything I lived through was real. One afternoon in late spring, I drove past the diner we used to visit. The one I went to the night I first heard the truth. And sitting outside, under a sun-bleached umbrella, was Evan. Alone. He looked tired. Older. He saw me. I considered driving off. But I didn't. I parked. Walked over. He stood when I approached. Looked like he didn't know if I was about to swing or speak. Hey, I said. Hey. A long pause. She left you too? I asked. He nodded. A month ago. Was there another guy? He gave a dry laugh. There's always another guy. We sat down. Didn't talk about her much. Just about how easy it is to miss the signs. How people like us get caught in someone else's illusion and mistake it for love. I thought I was saving her, he said. I thought I was loving her, I said. Silence. And then he said something that stuck with me. I think she's still chasing something she'll never catch. And burning people on the way. He wasn't wrong. But that wasn't my concern anymore. 6 months later, my life was quieter. Simpler. I'd redecorated the house. Painted the bedroom. Gave away the old sofa. Changed the locks. Not out of bitterness. Just closure. One night, While organizing files on my computer, I came across the original letter I'd written her, the one I planned to give her before I found out everything. It was gentle, naive, full of hope and heartbreak. I almost deleted it, but instead, I opened it and rewrote it to myself. Dear Brian, you didn't fail. You loved, fully, blindly, boldly, and that's not something to regret. You didn't lose everything. You were freed from a lie. You were never stupid. You were honest. And now you're healing. And soon, you'll be ready again. Not to repeat the past, but to start again with someone who sees you, respects you, and never laughs behind your back. I printed it, framed it, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel pain when I walked in my bedroom. I felt peace. Epilogue. A year later, I met someone. Her name's Elise. She works at the bookstore downtown. We met over a conversation about a coffee stain on a paperback. It wasn't fireworks. It wasn't fast. It was safe, warm, honest. One night, months into dating, I told her everything. About Karen, the court, the betrayal. She didn't flinch. She just held my hand and said, "You're not broken. You were just with someone who didn't know how to hold something whole." And that was it. Not the ending I imagined when I first said, "I do," but the redemption I didn't know I needed. Because sometimes you don't rise in flames. You rise in silence, in stillness, in truth, and no one can laugh you out of that.